Hey, my name is Amanda. I'm an alcoholic. Sobriety date is January 20th, 2011. Home Group's a Vision for You. We meet Tuesday nights at 7 in Fayetteville. I know some of you guys have been there. Please come join us if you're ever around. And appreciate being asked to talk about cooperation with the professional community, pause, and public information. I believe the two are officially kind of separated now at the area level. It's two different committees. Fayetteville is part of District 51, and at our district level, we do have a district level committee that's still combining the two as one committee, as it's probably been the past few years. I don't really know when it's separated at the higher level, but out of all the topics today, this is one that I probably have the least experience in. I've been active in treatment and corrections, my whole sobriety, and probably just in the past few years have been active in CPC work. So hopefully we'll share what that's looked like and what we're doing just at District 51, and mostly like lessons learned and maybe not how to so much to be effective, but how not to be effective or what not to do, and how we're trying to be more effective. So I think some of the things that have come to mind, my first interaction with a professional was a school resource officer. My junior year of high school, I got caught with weed at school and got arrested. And that was kind of my first involvement as a budding alcoholic, as a juvenile delinquent, with someone in the professional community that had that interaction with me. And then I got sent to teen court, and then I got sent to a lawyer. And so thinking about the intersections of my journey is very helpful with the CPC work, because unlike treatment and corrections, where hopefully that relationship with those facilities has already been established, it's pretty straightforward. You're taking the meeting in, you're carrying the message. With CPC, it can look very different, and it's with very different organizations and with different audiences. And so that's also been a challenge, as to kind of how to approach that, because it's a very broad opportunity. And to me, that's what makes it more exciting. I also have, I think, been more recently really excited about this work because, reading the forward of the big book and seeing how important, it talks about in some of the notes in the big book at the beginning about how we want input from the medical, religious, and psychiatric communities, paraphrasing there, and then in the forwards it shows how important the press and doctors were to the spread of AA, and today that looks way different, and I think another challenge is to be more open-minded about how we are cooperating with what that looks like today, in being dug into a little more in depth into history these past few months, seeing how critical it was with doctors and clergy at the beginning of AA, and it's really actually got me more inspired to try to get more involved with CPC work. But I have noted that it is way different today than it was, and having to be flexible and open-minded, and that's something that's really hard for me to do. And so one note, probably, I don't know when it was, but maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I'd taken the position as a CPCPI chair at the district committee, and I really didn't know what that looked like. I don't think that had been an active committee in our district since I'd been sober, so I really didn't have an example to go by, and I put my name in the hat, and I called a member of the Primary Purpose Home Group that was recommended of me to call them, and got some ideas, and we had a phone conversation. And at the time, the work I was doing, I was a grants manager for a foundation that gave grants to nonprofits, and a lot of the organizations in Fayetteville were some of the nonprofits, and just out of like pure fear and ego, I resigned from the position, because at the time, I didn't, I thought in my mind it was going to interfere with my job, and how can I go talk to these people that I see in my day-to-day work about my alcoholism? It was just all fear and ego, and I just wasn't at that point in my recovery that I was wanting to break that anonymity at that level, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong, that was just where I was, and I quickly resigned from the position, which really wasn't in my nature. I mean, I'm all about service work and willing to do it, but this was like a really big fear point. You know, I wasn't willing to, you know, put my name out there in the community because of my job and because it was just ego, right? Fast forward a few years and some spiritual growth and change, and then I had the opportunity. I'm not the committee chair, but I'm an active member of the CPC community, and now I'm like all in, you know, and that through that growth and fear, I'm willing to break my anonymity at these levels because I am an active member of the community. I'm on boards, I'm on outside AA stuff, and you know, the whole anonymity thing doesn't bother me anymore, and I see the value of doing this type of work, and so that's been kind of a personal growth for me in CPC work. So what that looks like now is our committees meet every other month, and our district meets on the other even odd months or even months, I can't remember. And we have a Google spreadsheet that we put on our website, and we try to, it's a kind of a tracker of where the panel or people have gone to talk to. And it started out with like, you know, the school system and firefighters, and I'll be honest, like we really copied primary purpose group a lot, I guess, on ideas, which is fine, right? You know, you should reach out and ask what other people are doing. And so we just kind of came up with a list, kind of a brainstorming list, and this is kind of where the challenge has been. Like school systems, firefighters, first responders, police departments, teen court, sobriety court, probation office. And then we noted too, like, hey, we got a lot of, Fayetteville State's got a social work program, and every now and then in open meetings we'll have people who are getting their degree in social work that have to go observe an AA meeting. They'll come in, and we're like, well, hey, that'd be a good group of people to talk to about AA. And just really brainstorming and putting together this list. And over the past few years, we've been successful or unsuccessful at making contact with some of these groups and coordinating to go talk. And usually we try to get a male and a female if possible. And the one commitment that we've had that's been regular since this has kind of started is a joint effort between the Fayetteville Police Department, Cape Fear Valley Mental Health, and the first responders. So they do a quarterly crisis intervention training for all first responders, from the telecommunicators all the way to the firefighters. And it's a 40-week course, as some of us may know. And this is kind of where keeping up on the evolving changes are. A lot of our first responders are the first line for a mental health crisis, right? And so they're doing a better job at training them on how to handle mental health. And so part of their training is a recovery panel. And so we have this opportunity probably a couple times a quarter to be a part of this recovery panel. And here's where the open-mindedness comes in, because it's not just AA. It's all paths of recovery. And the big book talks about how AA doesn't have a monopoly on recovery. And for me, that's very hard to wrap my head around, because this is what's worked for me. But these engagements have really opened my mind up to the fact that, guess what? People get sober other ways besides AA, and that's okay. And for me, that's very hard to say, and much harder to to wrap my head around. But so I've had these opportunities to be exposed to just different people, and it's good for these first responders to know there's other options and coming around to that. And another helpful thing that's been something that we've done is partnering with other 12-step fellowships. So as we all know that, our primary purpose is help alcoholics, but a lot of these groups, what are they focusing on now? They're focused on the opioid crisis. That's what they're focused on. And for us to have an effective message, for us, we found it effective to bring somebody from DAA along with us. So we'll have someone talk about AA and then someone talk about DAA. And that's been effective because they want to hear that. They want to hear, and it also is helpful so that they're not sending people that have drug problems to AA that they know there's DAA to send them to. And this cooperation, not just with the professional community, but with other recovery communities. We had, at our home group Tuesday night, we had some people from Celebrate Recovery come. And so what we're seeing is this growth of not just cooperation, but just throughout the recovery community in general. And it's a positive thing. It's not a negative thing. And a few years ago, I would have been very closed-minded to that. And it's been a really cool thing to see this inner cooperation. And so the last recovery panel we did had a lady who was holistic, and is having a mocktail party for Cinco de Mayo and inviting people that are in sobriety to it, and that's maybe not what my thoughts are on that, but I was able to talk to her in the parking lot and openly share with her why, as an alcoholic, that probably wouldn't be the best idea for me to go to a mocktail party. But, that's okay. We had good dialogue, and it wasn't weird, and so, and then the first responders also got to hear other options. So it's important, I think, when we talk to them at these CPCPI things, what I try to convey is that Alcoholics Anonymous isn't a smoky room of miserable people talking about their problems. So I share a little bit of my experience with the school resource officer and with the probation officer and with the prison, all these people that made me go to recovery, but how it planted a seed, and I might not have been ready at the time, but that when I was ready, I knew about AA because of those professional people. And that's kind of the message I try to give across to people when I talk. What we really try to do at a district level is, again, like I said, we share that spreadsheet on the website, and I'll be honest, none of the other groups who aren't involved with that committee have used it. The idea is that each group in our district would have a CPCPI rep, and that they would, bring that back to their group and try to get their group to go do this on their own, to where it's not just on a few people like was mentioned before. And that's been a challenge, but we're still chipping away at it. And we do have the bigger success has been that we do have some engagement. So our District 51 is Cumberland County and Robeson County. And Robeson County has always been a challenge to engage with because it's a very rural county. There's just not a lot of AA down there. But now we've got these two ladies down there, one that works for the health system down there who's just pounding the pavement with the CPCPI, and she's going to set up at the health fair. And so you start seeing these things grow, and you get encouraged that if you, with some willingness and persistence, that'll work out. And so that's kind of some good momentum down there that we've seen. And then we got in contact with the Fayetteville State School of Social Work. That had been a big challenge to get in touch with them. But once we finally had a conversation with them, they were all super excited about it. And it's kind of the end of the school year, so it's not a good time. So we got to connect at the beginning of next semester. But that communication is there and building those relationships. And then in May, there's an organization called Communicare that does a lot with teen mental health, and that's kind of where the teen court kids get referred to, or the juvenile delinquents get referred to. And so we got something set up with them, and this is also another unique situation where you kind of have to know your audience, because it's not just that it kind of mixes almost like carrying the message to the alcoholic and then just carrying the message to the non-alcoholic. And so what they do is they have a night where it's a mentor night where the adults or the parents or the mentors of the teens come, and they do a presentation once a month. And so we're going to be the presentation, and they say they usually split them into two different rooms, the adults in one room and the kids in another. And so now I'm thinking, all right, well, the kids are kind of like the alcoholics, so whoever's talking to them probably is going to be carrying a message, a PG message at that, right, because they're juveniles, which honestly I don't have that much experience with. But I picked two people that I know their story, and their story is that of being, having trouble in their teens and their youth. And then the adults and the mentors will be more like a CPC, like, hey, this is what AA is, this is how you can find AA, this is how AA can help your kid or your family member. And so this is all just kind of new territory, to be honest, and it's pretty exciting to see the momentum. And we have had some things to where it's just a little challenging with the direction of the way recovery is going, and to where abstinence almost isn't even an option anymore. And I can't really have an opinion about that. All I can do is show up and be open-minded and be that voice in the room of, hey, this is what worked for me. Because if we're not showing up at these meetings where abstinence doesn't seem to be an option, that message is going to get lost if we're not showing up. And I'm seeing that as becoming more abundantly clear the more community meetings I go to, that a 12-step program as an option isn't a voice at the table. They just don't know. It's just kind of getting forgotten that is an option. And so for me, I don't want that to ever happen. I don't want the community not to know that Alcoholics Anonymous is an option for abstinence-based recovery and for a 12-step program that works, a spiritual solution. And I'm really excited to see what that can look like down the road. And we're trying to just educate the groups, hey, just talk to your doctor. You don't have to make it a big deal. Like, next time you go to your doctor, talk to them and just let them know that, hey, this is what I do, and if you ever, we offer that our committee will come help you if you're nervous about talking to your clergy or your doctor about AA. We'll just let us know, and we'll come talk to them, and just doing a better job at that at a district level, and that seems to be working pretty good. And I look forward to seeing what the future holds. I mean, they're popping up. They're having a recovery center now in town, and Alcoholics Anonymous needs to be there. And I hope that we're going to be able to continue that and show up at these events that are recovery events and make sure that people know about AA. So, yep, that's what I got. Thanks.
Thanks, Amanda. My name's Aaron Bliss. I'm an alcoholic. I think I know most of you, not all of you. Sobriety date is December 1st, 2002. I'm a member of the resolution group of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it dawned on me that I think one of the reasons I'm passionate about CPCPI is the cooperation with the professional community. Is when I sat in front of my first attorney with a DUI charge, he got the report, and I had faked a panic attack in the police station, and they brought me to a hospital so I didn't have to blow in their machine. And he didn't look at the fact that I was in the police station or getting arrested for drinking. He didn't look at the results of that blood test, which showed my alcohol level was just extremely high. But he gave me a book on controlling my anxiety. I said, there it is. So I think it's important that, I think a lot of, I'm probably getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but I think one of the reasons I'm passionate about it is I think that most people in the professional community that are going to get alcoholics in front of them know something of alcoholism or Alcoholics Anonymous, but I think that there's a lot of misconception about what it really is. That it's just, I think, Amanda spoke to that it's a substance misuse program. You can wrap it all together with all the other 12-step programs, and it's a journey. But I feel it's important for them to have the facts about what Alcoholics Anonymous is and what it isn't, So that's kind of like, that usually comes a little later in this talk, but got about 5 minutes. So interesting, maybe it's not interesting, I don't know, but public information side of the CPCPI started in 1956. General Service Board created a committee and made it a thing. And in 1970, they started the trustee, an ad hoc committee with the trustees to give CPC like a chance and see what that would look like. And in 1971, the conference approved that position as well. So, I think that's kind of how they started their separate journeys. But yeah, personally, I had done a fair amount of service in Alcoholics Anonymous, and a few years back, a friend asked me to do a deal at drug court and go there with him. And I don't think I spoke for maybe 4 minutes, but it really it lit me up. I really felt like, wow, this is something I could wrap my head around. Like I felt it was as close to our singleness of purpose as I can get. Short of sitting across the table from another alcoholic, helping them recover from alcoholism, is communicating with, whether it's professional community or public information about what Alcoholics Anonymous is, and that it's available. And it dawned on me that I worked a hotline a few times, and I've got some really good questions as a result of that as well, that not everybody knows what Alcoholics Anonymous is. So that public information side, when you get asked questions like, how do you get referred to AA? Is it free? Will my insurance cover it? Do I need to quit my job, or do I need to go on disability to get there? None of that is relevant. So there's a need for information for sure. So it kind of lit me up, and like Amanda said, a few of us got invited to a group here in this district to see what they do about CPC and PI, and they've kind of adopted a lot of that roles themselves, and it was pretty well organized, and they shared a lot of information. It was very cool. And I think to some extent that kind of shifted in my journey in doing this work. Not that I've been doing it all that long, but it kind of personalized it for me. You know, like I think I was doing this long before I knew I was doing it. You know, when I would go to my doctor, I would tell him that I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, but not in the sense that he wouldn't prescribe me medication. I mean, that's certainly an advantage, but so he could, I made myself available. I would tell him that if somebody needed help, that you can give them my number. And I think I was doing that early on, and if you think back, without the cooperation from the professional community, we wouldn't be here. I don't believe that. I mean, I think that, you know, I always, to break it down in my mind, public information is you're giving information out that could potentially reach the alcoholic directly. And cooperation with the professional community is you're informing people who are indirectly going to come, or going to, you know, you're not coming with the alcoholic, but they are, you know. And I would say that, you know, had that judge not cooperated with the Oxford group and let Evie go into their care, we might not be here. Had Bill not found some people, although they were clergy, but, you know, indirectly who were willing to put an alcoholic in front of him, we might not be here. So, you know, I think that there's a long-standing tradition of this work being done. I think Bill handled most of the public, you know, information or relations, if you will, early on. So I think it's, you know, it's got a lot of history to it. I find that somewhat interesting. So I got elected as my group's. I ran for the group CPCPI person, and went up to the district. And as a result of working and getting some ideas and some contact information for the crisis intervention training group, we had already started doing some things. I reached out and they said yes, so we grabbed a few home group members, and we were doing it before I was even a committee member, you know. And then as a result of that, we built some more connections, and we did some work with some parole officers, I kind of started doing that before I even had a role anywhere. So maybe that's a message as well. You don't need a committee, you don't need an intergroup, you don't need a district, you don't even need a group. I mean, if you have a connection, a personal connection to a professional community, or a means to get public information out, or you do it yourself, I think you can effectively do this work that way. I mean, it doesn't have to be this great organized process. It doesn't cost a lot of money. In the most part, I don't know that we've really spent any money since we've been doing it in our group. But so when I went to intergroup, it was pretty much, they were doing a fine job, and they were trying to just, you know, they were trying to create a framework for you to bring your ideas or your initiatives or your relationships or your contacts and bring them to fruition. You know, they had some budget and they had some experience. You know, they were trying to help you with what experience they had. But I ran that course there, and then, you know, my home group is pretty large. So, you know, we decided to start a committee locally in our home group, and carry the message that way, and that's been pretty cool, to be honest with you. We've had, you know, pretty good success, I think. We've actually been a committee. We meet once a month, and usually between 5 and 7 people there. And in 4 months since we've been doing it, we've had about, I think the count is now 19 different home group members participate in these presentations. And they cover a wide range of venues. We have a monthly standing commitment at a men's and a women's healing transition to present public information about what Alcoholics Anonymous is and what it isn't. And the questions we get out of there are proof that we're doing the right thing. Because these people are interactive. They don't know. They've been told all kinds of things. They've been told all kinds of things from their programmers. Just go there and say this. Just go there and say that. I mean, it's all of it's not necessary. You know, I mean, if you have a problem with alcohol, you come to Alcoholics Anonymous. So they really have seemed to embrace, and we have an interactive process where they can ask questions as well. And they seem to they ask a lot of questions, good questions, you know. And we kind of break that down into 3 parts when we present information. We present what Alcoholics Anonymous is and what it isn't. That it's not affiliated with anyone. That its singleness purpose is to help the alcoholic recover from alcoholism, and that anyone who has a problem with alcohol is welcome to join. And we explain to them that we operate on fundamentally 2 principles of anonymity and autonomy. Do you have the complete autonomy to decide for yourself whether you're an alcoholic or not? We don't judge that. We don't grade that. We don't, you know. And then we're going to protect your anonymity while you do that. You have the right to tell who you want that you're figuring that out or not. That's none of our business. But we do have a requirement that you are an alcoholic to join Alcoholics Anonymous. So that message seems to be very well received from people who are confused and getting bombarded by a million different options, which is awesome. I'm glad they have them, but as a representative of this group, just communicating what AA is and what it isn't seems to be pretty relevant. And we have a quarterly standing commitment with the Crisis Intervention Training Group, which is pretty cool. We've done a fair amount of that. We've got a few other opportunities arising. And what happened was you get 4, 5, 6 people together and you start discussing what you could or options are. They're endless. I mean, the amount of work that we could be doing. I mean, we could probably recruit a small army and carry this message out to professionals. But we're working on getting into a recovery high school. We actually have some people that attend our group from that high school. And there's another thing. We're not afraid to cooperate with the parents of these kids and let them know that that we're going to. I know that's probably a little off track from this, but it's cooperation, and we do some IOP work. We try to get some people, while they're still on IOP, to explain them what it is and what it isn't, and they're asking a lot of questions. What I was going to say is we break those presentations down into. I got a little sidetracked. What AA is and what it isn't, and then what sponsorship and the steps look like, and what home group looks like. Now that's not getting into detail, but it's giving general information to people who are engaged in the process of trying to figure out what path they're going to go down for recovery. And if they're having a problem with alcohol, they should be informed on what's going on and what they need to know. Obviously, that presentation looks different for the professional community. When we go we've done some work in front of some parole officers, and in the Crisis Intervention Training Group, you've got first responders. And it's never lost on me. There's probably a good percentage of us sitting out there, whether they know it or not. So that may be able to latch on to that message or not. But it's clear to me that there's a lot of work to do, and that it just needs some willing souls to do it. I'm glad to be a part of that group, and I'm glad we've kind of taken ownership of it ourselves, and we're just kind of going after it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm going to start rambling. But let me ask you: anybody got any questions about any of that? It's quiet.
Well, I can just make a comment. I'm Marilyn. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Marilyn.
And I'm so impressed by what each of you has brought to the table. And I know a little bit about CPCPI because I'm a member of PPG and I'm aware of what goes on within our group and at the district level. But I see you drifting back in a good way toward how it used to be, because CPC got, in my experience, got considerably far away from 12-step work, that there was always a middleman. But it sounds like you guys are finding ways to re-include the afflicted individual through the juvenile detention that you mentioned and through the recovery high school that you mentioned. And I just, with HIPAA, with all the privacy issues, I think that it's great that you're finding a way back to the grassroots. I just wanted to make that comment.
Thanks, and I appreciate that. And I think that a lot of that is on the public information level, not the cooperation professional community, because we are still, many times, like we're working on an opportunity now where there's going to be individuals that are afflicted, or it could be alcoholics if they choose to say they are, and an administrative staff that guides them. So that presentation will be different for each one of those. We'll cooperation professional community with the staff, and then just public information there, And, we start thinking about things like, do we have it in our church bulletin as public information? Is it in our local community newspaper? That, hey, there's an Alcoholics Anonymous group. We're not a secret society. Come on here. We'll protect your anonymity. We're here. We're available to help. We get several recommendations from our church. So I'm guessing, that's public information as well. So thank you for that. Anybody else got anything?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah.
So I've been in I've had the opportunity to do a couple of the CIT trainings, but that's about the extent of my CPCPI involvement. So I apologize, I just don't really understand. What's a clear distinction between the work that a group member is doing at a group level and CPCPI at a district level?
I can't answer that because I really don't know what they're doing. Like, I know that our district does not have the service committees represented, but they defaulted or they delegated that out to the intergroup when they broke in from one district into 3 districts. So they're still doing some of that, the intergroup, but the districts themselves aren't. Our group, I think, similar to your group, has started their own committee and is just basically carrying that message and cooperation out from there. I don't think I answered your question, but I'm not sure I understood it.
No, I mean, we've got a CPCPI, we've got a new chair. I don't know if she's still here or not. And I'm just looking for input or suggestions on how to, at the district level, to get more opportunities to carry a message through CPCPI.
Well, I will tell you this, that what I've noticed is my group is very active. We make an announcement, hey, we've got all these opportunities. Nobody comes knocking. If you go ask anybody, would you like to do that? They jump. Yes, I'd love to. So I don't know if that's an answer to your question, but now we don't look for people to come to us. We just go ask individuals. And usually they love it. They have a good experience and they want to do it again. So maybe that's an option to instead of just broadcasting, communicating. Any other questions? I don't want to keep burning up your time. All right. Thank you.
Good deal. Thank you, Amanda and Double A-Ron. We're going to jump right into treatment. Who's going first there? Lynn's going to take us away.
Lynn Edwards, alcoholic. My sobriety date is July 26, 2018. I am a member of the primary purpose group of Southern Pines. We meet on Monday nights and Thursday nights, right here. I see the recorder up here, so plausible deniability is out the window. If I say something silly, I guess I'm going to have to own it. That's one of the wonderful gifts of Alcoholics Anonymous is learning how to own your actions in that. Thank you, Blake, for organizing this at the district level and getting this all together. And thank you for asking me to speak on treatment. Real quick on that, though, I remember when Blake asked me to do this, and I said yes to him, and immediately, about 15 minutes later, I received an email that had my name on it with this flyer. So he had already had me on there, I'm believing, and he had already known what the answer to the commitment was going to be. And that's been one of the wonderful things in my sobriety is that I've found out that my willingness and my freedom kind of go hand in hand that I've been able to have in this. The willingness to be able to say yes to some different things. And real quick to get started on treatment, one of the things that I saw in our big book that from working with others, practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. It works when other activities fail. And to me, that statement kind of brings the origin of treatment and how it all came about when Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob went to the Akron City Hospital shortly after Dr. Bob getting sober. And I believe the conversation between the two, Dr. Bob had said that if we don't get busy and get to work, we'll drink again. If we want to stay sober, we got to get busy. And so they immediately went to the hospital, and they were able to reach out to Bill Dotson, which was AA number 3. And to me, not a lot's really changed in 88 years. Here at our home group, one of the wonderful things that we have is we have a treatment chair that does a lot of the legwork for us. She gets out there. She makes contact with different groups with the hospital. We also are involved with the treatment facility not too far away in one of the other counties. We have just so many activities that allow us to be able to go out and reach out to people in treatment facilities, and to be able to take our experience, our strength, and our hope to someone. Many experiences that I think have strengthened my sobriety and that helped me. I don't ever know when I go to any of these activities if I'm ever going to be able to help anyone, other than the fact that I see that it keeps me sober. And that when we go to these treatment facilities, when we go to detox, or when we go to a place like Samaritan Colony and we speak on our experience, I'm able to speak on two things. I'm able to speak on the experience of hope because I've been in some of those facilities. And the fact that by a person admitting that they have a problem or they believe they have a problem with something, that they're willing to seek treatment for it. And in seeking that treatment, it brings about a solution. Because when I was in treatment, people from Alcoholics Anonymous came and visited me. They showed me the solution that they had found through the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous, through a spiritual awakening, through having the God of their understanding touch them and to grow that relationship with them. And when I was able to get with a sponsor, when I was able to have a home group, and when I was able to work those steps, I found that freedom start to come into my life. And it was because of the introduction I had found in a place like Samaritan Colony through going to treatment. It's in a place like the DUI class and having members of Alcoholics Anonymous come into a DUI class. And then once I was armed with facts about myself and was able to carry a message into some of these facilities, it was easy for me because I look back at my experience, and going to a DUI class wasn't difficult. I mean, I had 3 of them, been to a few of them, so I knew what those people were going through. But then to also be able to share the fact that there is hope and that there is a solution, that there's a viable solution through the program Alcoholics Anonymous that I had found that's been going on for 88 years, that I had been able to find, that a guy who drank the way I drank on a daily basis for many, many years, the fear, the shame, the remorse, the anxiety that I had felt on a daily basis, that could be arrested, and that I could live a life of freedom again, and that if I could do it, that anyone could do it. When we go to detox, I'm privileged to be able to go to detox and what that looks like. Being able to carry a message to people that are sitting in detox, and it's like, but the wonderful thing about it is that there's hope. Because you've got the willingness by being here to know that there's a problem. And once we're partially of the way there when we know that there's a problem, because then once that problem is discovered, and we can work on the important part, the solution. And when I'm able to go into those places, I don't know for a second if it helps anyone other than me. And it allows me to be sober for that day. And if I'm sober that day, then what Alcoholics Anonymous has shown me through treatment is that I need to go out and try and help someone. And if I'm going out and trying to help someone, if I'm showing that willingness, then not only will I stay sober that day, but I might just have an opportunity to touch someone and bring them with me. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Haley so that she can let us know the nuts and bolts of treatment, and then answer some questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. I'm Haley. I'm an alcoholic. And thank you to everyone that shared prior to. Really great information. I'm also a member of the primary purpose group. My sobriety date is August 11th, 2019. And I've really been involved with treatment really from the start of my recovery. Thanks to a sponsor who was really heavily involved. She got me kind of shadowing people to go to detox meetings early on when I thought I need the help, I'm not here to help other people. But she really, taught me what that means. And even if I have just a few months, that I have a message that I can share with, other sick and suffering alcoholics. So that was kind of my entry into it. And then I kind of made the commitment to continue to take meetings to detox and get involved in, taking meetings to IOP as well. And I also now serve as the treatment committee chair in primary purpose group for about the past year. And, we'll do periodic meetings with the director of the detox unit up at First Health More Regional, and just, see how we can support them. And that's looked like making sure we have a supply of big books for people to take and check out as needed. We realize that they need, some pamphlets and little books that they can just take with them. So just making sure that we're continuing to have that relationship and supporting them however we can, and they really appreciate that. And taking meetings into detox themselves, I've only had experience with this particular unit, but we have our own separate meeting space, like a conference area. They make an announcement, and really anyone's welcome at that unit. They mix behavioral and the detox patients. So sometimes we get some overflow with behavioral, but usually it's not an issue, and we just make it clear that we're here to serve, those suffering from addiction, and we really don't have much to, share or help with other issues. And I like to get an idea of who has experience with a 12-step meeting, and it always varies, as I'm sure, people who've done that work know. Usually, people might say, well, I've been to some meetings, I don't really know that much about AA, or I don't know anything about AA or NA or another 12-step meeting. And then, of course, you get some people that they might have a lot of experience in, they're in there for a relapse or whatever. And I think that just helps inform my share and, our shares, because we do go in there just to share kind of our experience, strength, and hope. Like Len said, we're sharing condensed versions of our stories and hoping that identification takes place. But if we know that someone's never stepped foot into an AA meeting, or maybe they came to AA meetings and no one explained to them that, hey, it suggested you get a sponsor and you work through the 12 steps, and the 12 steps are the program of recovery, and meetings are great, but if I didn't take the 12 steps and have a sponsor, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today, likely. So just making sure that within my story, I'm kind of breaking down those nuts and bolts of what a program of recovery actually looks like for me. And then we usually have some time for questions at the end. If anyone has any questions about how anything works, and we have little cards that we can write our numbers on, pass them out. I'll give them to the woman, whoever I'm going with, will pass their number out to the guys. And like other people have shared, you never know who's going to be impacted. Usually we never see them again, but I've had the experience of people calling me while they're in detox, or people calling me when they get out. And sometimes they're not local to this area exactly. They might live in Sanford, they might live in Myrtle Beach, and for whatever reason they're just down here. But we've been able to, connect them to those communities if they're not local. And knowing that I've seen people that I met in detox walk in here and become home group members. It's not, something that happens every day, but I've also known other people to have that experience too, and it's that reminder that, all the weeks that pass where we keep going, and you never know if anyone even listens to what you're saying sometimes, but that there is still those people that need to hear that message and actually, are willing enough to do, take action on it. And the same with, outpatient. We don't have in this area right now an active IOP anymore, but when we did, we were taking meetings there as well and really doing the same thing. In my experience, our meetings into IOP and detox, and I can't speak for Samaritan Colony because they don't have a women's unit yet. That's coming. But we more so kind of set it up as just a speaker meeting where we share, and we do give other people an opportunity to share, but it's not necessarily a discussion meeting. So I know in my own recovery, didn't happen in a detox unit, but I needed to hear someone's story that I could identify with, so I could feel as though AA might work for me too. And that happened when AA member took me out for coffee and just talked to me about the way she drank, and I could identify with, okay, I did that, I felt like that, I thought like that, I think maybe AA could work for me too. And I think that's, the message we're still trying to carry. Let me check the time. And we are, because we do have a good relationship with Samaritan Colony, we are able to, once the women's side is open, they're already asking, can you bring people from different AA meetings to take meetings in there too for the women? So it's just really good that we have that existing relationship and they know who to go to and who to ask. And people don't have to be members of just the primary purpose group to get involved. We welcome members of all meetings to do detox and different service like that. Trying to think what else I have. I feel like I went through that really fast. But yeah, it's been, a very important part in my own recovery, like other people have shared. I have Sunday nights when I go to detox, and usually I'm like, well, I'd rather be like meal prepping, or it's my hair wash night. I don't really want to go do this right now. But without fail, I am always really, thrilled when I leave. And I feel like, well, I didn't think about myself for an hour. That's great, And just the ability to, go with another member of AA and hear their story again, even if I've heard it tens of other times, and just, answer questions and just remember that, even if I never see the impact, hopefully some of the work we're doing is impactful. And yeah, I think that's really all I have to share on that. I'll open it up to questions. Yes, Cara.
I got a two-part question. So going into detox, do you have guest speakers come with you? And can they get in just on the fly?
Oh, that's a good question. I should have covered that too. So we typically don't, the hospital has to clear everyone as a hospital volunteer. So there is a kind of clearance process that we go through. Probably, I haven't volunteered in the jail setting, but maybe a little less strenuous than that, but they need to do, vaccines for you. You get a little badge, and typically they want the people that are coming into the unit to be a cleared volunteer, but we have had instances where someone's just interested. They know nothing about taking a meeting into detox, so maybe we say, okay, just go with these two other volunteers this one time, and if you're interested, then we'll go through the clearance process. So typically that's how we'll do it. So it's more to adhere to the hospital's standards. And there was another point I had on that. So yeah, we'll just always also make sure that's what it was. When we go in, we make sure to say that we are not affiliated with the hospital in any way because we're wearing, a hospital ID badge, and just kind of let people know why we're there. We're here just for free and for fun. We're here because someone did this for us to carry the message. We're not trying to recruit people to AA. You know, if you hear something that you identify with and you're curious, just come check us out. You know, we're not paid employees or anything, so yeah.
Yeah, you may not know the answer to this, do you have any overlap between your treatment facilities that you go in and carry the message and the staff there with your CPCPI group? Do you just kind of work on any of the same facilities on different levels like that?
So for First Health, I think there is some overlap. I know our CPCPI group might communicate with First Health with, you know, employee assistance programs where treatment won't necessarily do that. So there is some, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know at one point during COVID that the hospital was requiring people to be vaccinated to be able to attend detox, and that is that still the case, or has that been lifted?
No, so at that particular hospital, you don't need to have COVID vaccine anymore. You do need to have a yearly flu vaccine and a few others that they send out email reminders to, but the COVID vaccine is no longer a requirement. Okay, if there's no more questions, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lenny. Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for all of the